hardware news. So, few things to talk about here. The Ultra RISC DP1000, there it is in all of its glory, also known as this is the chip that's being used on the Milk 5 Titan. Um, they are claiming to be an RVA22 compliant, RVA22 compatible processor with hypervisor. It's going to have 8 cores on it. Takes DDR5 DIMMs, which is interesting. Well, it was interesting 4 months ago, and now it's really expensive, unfortunately. But yeah, it does not come with any memory. You have to add it. Um, Also, I may be mistaken. I think they're DDR4 DIMMs. I will double check that and again update the slides as necessary. Apologies. I did pre-order some DDR4 DIMMs for it, so hopefully it's DDR4 and not DDR5. We'll find out. Pre-orders are available now. I have put in a pre-order for one. They are expected to ship in March, April. There's been a slight setback on getting these out the door once again. Apparently, there was some sort of error in the actual PCBs that were manufactured, and that's but fortunately, it's only a couple-week turnaround time to get that fixed. The chips are done, so all of that's good to go. Like I said, we're expecting to see this in March or April timeframe, which is great. Um, the big news, this happened, I think, a week or so after our last gathering, was the Spacetime K3. And if you did not know, yes, that is how you pronounce that word, is Spacetime. Um, they are claiming RVA23. That does include Vector 1.0 and Hypervisor 1.0. It has 8 RVA23 vector length 256 cores and 8 AI cores that have a vector length of 1024. Um, our understanding from the folks who have access to these through, there's been a lot of discussion of this on the Discord, so definitely go check out those channels if you're looking for more info. Our understanding is the AI cores are in order, whereas the RVA23 cores are superscalar out of order. They are significantly slower, but you can do a lot more data with them. They will all show up in Linux. This was a big point of discussion on the kernel call a couple times. But you will not necessarily be able to launch processes on the AI cores by default. There will be a process where you can set up a C group to opt into those cores. You cannot move processes between them. They are not compatible. They do not have the same extensions. And also, moving stuff from one vector register type to another vector register type will cause all sorts of errors. So you either operate entirely on the RVA23 cores or you operate entirely on the AI cores. But it is possible to set your preference when you are launching your process, which is good to know. Does have PCI Express 3.0 with multiple ports and routes. In fact, while we're talking about this, let me pull up the block diagram so everybody can take a peek at that. It is expected to ship in the April-May timeframe. There was a little bit of pushback on this because of the DRAM shortage. But, you know, we can't have everything. The things that are really cool about this is that there are a fair number of PCI Express root ports on it, talking to a fair number of external physical interfaces for PCI Express, which is great news. The bad news is the form factors that it comes in. We'll talk about that in a second. But the good news is the chip is capable. It's just trying to find a way to get them exposed. But you can see here, it's probably really difficult to see my cursor. But these are the 2 clusters of the full-blown RVA23 cores, and then these are the 2 clusters of the AI cores. All the various interfaces you would think of. The other thing that is worth pointing out on this is using the same Imagination internal GPU, integrated GPU that is used on the T-Head 1520. And that has, as of very recently, entirely open source drivers available in both the Linux kernel and in Mesa 3D, which is great news. Especially since these are shipping in form factors that are going to make it somewhat difficult to show there. I just realized now, as I'm thinking about this, I did not put a slide in here for this. And Yuning, when you're watching this on YouTube, I'm so sorry. But Deep Computing has a Framework motherboard, a Framework 13 motherboard using this chip available for pre-order now. I'm hoping to put a pre-order in for a couple weeks. Again, a lot of discussion about this in the Spacetime K3 channel. Check that out, but you can go to deepcomputing.io, I believe, in order to go get information on that. No word on pricing yet. Um, they're looking for pre-order information so that they can try and negotiate better pricing for RAM is really what it all boils down to. But other than that, the other things that I wanted to show off are a couple of the different form factors that are going to be available. So this is very different than the last Spacetime release. There are multiple manufacturers, and they're basically all shipping the same boards, which is very interesting. So the first one here is going to be available from Cypede, Banana Pive, and Milk 5, and it is this SOM module. So this is compatible with the NVIDIA Jetson Orion NX. So any of the Jetson Orion carrier boards will support this. There are differences in the pinout than what is used with the Jetson boards, but the Jetson boards will just work. The differences are for things that are unused by that board. They did this with the Milk 5 did this with the Jupiter NX module as well. So, for example, I know on the Jupiter NX, that one is using the K1 chip, and one of the things that they did is they changed one of the camera interfaces to be the second Ethernet interface because the pinout supports like 8 cameras and nothing implements the 8 camera interfaces. So they took one of the unused ones and turned that into the second Ethernet interface so that you can actually have both of those accessible. I believe they've done similar things to this. I've got feelers out to a bunch of different folks to try and get more information on what the pinout for this module is. I'm hoping that more than one of the PCI Express ports is exposed as well, but at the moment I don't know. I know one of them is because that's part of the standard, but I don't know if there is more than one or if one is available that has multiple lanes. So we'll find, as soon as I get information, I will pass it along. Um, I am most interested in this one because the other form factor that is available is this Pico ITX one. And this is what's unfortunate about this board is that we're not going to be able to plug a GPU into it without some sort of Oculink shenanigans. So this is what this board looks like. It's very small. You can see that there are 2 PCI Express slots on there. One of them is your standard B key for a 2280 NVMe drive, and the other one is an E key that can be used for Wi-Fi or a WAN slash LTE slash 5G modem, but that does actually expose a single PCI Express lane. As far as I know, there are no other connectors on the bottom for PCI Express, which is simultaneously good and bad. Good in that they're really hard to get to, and bad that we wish we had more PCI Express connectivity on this. I am fairly certain that one of the PCI Express lanes is being used to power that SFP connector. Supposedly, that SFP connector will be able to do 10 gig. Word on the street currently is that it can only do one, but that should be getting fixed at some point in the future. But as you can see, a fair number of USB Type A interfaces. Those are all USB 3, standard 1 gig interface, that SFP interface. And then there's those 2 USB-C interfaces. One of those has the internal GPU, the integrated GPU connected through DisplayPort alternate mode via USB-C. So that's how you get the display out of this. I think the other one will be wired to the onboard serial interface, but I don't know for sure. Um, as I said, slightly unfortunate that it's in this form factor. I was really hoping for a mini ITX one. I've been digging around trying to see if someone makes a mini ITX or micro ATX or ATX form factor board that will accept a Orion NX style module. And there is one from I believe it's Arrow. Don't quote me on that, but I will double check. And it's unclear if it's still being manufactured. It was made for the 96 boards project out of Lenaro. Has a big PCI Express switch on it to deal with the problem of there being only a small number of PCI Express lanes exposed through the interface and various other odds and ends. But it exists. It may be possible to purchase. I don't know yet. I'm going to be looking into that. Failing that, I'm probably going to design a mini ITX carrier board for the SOM module. And that will be able to have a way for us to be able to plug in an actual GPU. Otherwise, we're going to have to do the sort of stuff that you see Jeff Geerling do on his YouTube video of getting Oculink adapters, using Oculink cables to go to external docks, power GPUs that way, and nobody wants to deal with that, myself included, if I'm being completely honest. So I'm hoping that someone else is going to make a board. Banana Pi has announced that they are selling the SOMs, but they are not selling this Pico ITX board, which is interesting and makes me think that they might be working on a mini ITX form factor board as well. It's also possible that somebody else will make a board natively. I'm not sure. Um, that obviously will let us access all of the PCI Express interfaces, but I don't have the ability to buy the chips directly. I know I can buy the modules. Like I said, we'll see what we can do. Details as we get more information. But these Pico ITX boards will be available both from Milk 5 and from SciPede at launch. That was the big information that I had about hardware.